Hello and welcome to Sport for Business. We have a basketball themed session this morning, all celebrating the news announced today that Basketball Ireland is to create a number of centres of excellence in third level institutions around the island of Ireland. We're joined by Bernard O'Byrne, the CEO of Basketball Ireland, and by Mike Heskin and Nigel Dobson from NUI Galway and from Ulster University, the first two to be involved in this new initiative. So, Bert, centres of excellence around the whole country. Give us a snapshot as to why this is important and why now.
Well, the genesis of this project comes from our strategic plan, which we put in place in 2015. And one of the pillars of the strategic plan was to improve facilities, particularly for our elite level of the game. So obviously we don't have the funding, and it may not be a great step anyway to start building facilities around the country. So we thought that a better approach would be to approach institutions that have facilities, both the physical facilities, but also the services that would feed into our elite athletes. So the way to go about that, we thought, was to approach institutions, talk through our plans with them, and see if we could come up with a template that was a win-win for both for both sides. So we had a long-standing relationship with NUIG, so they were our first port of call, and they were very helpful in moving things on and getting us to, as I say, a template that we have now presented to 13 institutions around the country. Our target figure is probably about 8. And we think we will get that over the next 18 months. But our first two, as you have said, our first two announcements are with NUIG and with Ulster University in Jordanstown. So it's a very big day for us, and it really points to the future of our elite athletes, our international teams in particular.
We're in the middle of March Madness over in America, where college basketball is very much at the heart of the sport, and similarly here as well, in schools and in colleges, basketball is a real go-to sport, and expanding obviously outwards into the professional or the national leagues and the super leagues now as well. But is this targeted very much at developing the player pathway within the college structure, or is it going to be to set up facilities whereby younger age groups will be able to come in and use facilities as well?
Well, certainly the latter. It would start with our elite teams, with our 10 international teams, and with the national league teams as well, having access to the various facilities. But the point of the whole exercise is to end up with a pathway where local clubs who may not have even thought of, let's say, going into NUIG and asking for facilities, or being afraid to do that, maybe, will learn through this over the coming period, that we have a relationship with NUIG and UUJ, and we're in this project together, and we think it will, in the end, it will be available to the basketball community, whatever they want that to mean and whatever we want that to mean. And I just, in my mind, this is a large door opening on to our community to drive our sport on. As you know, Rob, our membership in the last 5 or 6 years has increased by over 60%. And most of that is at under 16 level. So schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and now feeding into colleges, it's almost an explosion. And it puts it up to Basketball Ireland to react to that, to provide facilities, to provide officials and coaches. And it's a big exercise for us. So as I say, we're very enthusiastic about these announcements today.
It does look like a particularly good marriage with the facilities that colleges have in place and a dedication towards sport, both in the high performance and in the participation side of it. How will it work on the ground for you, Mike?
It's first of all, it's in line with our own strategy. That's the first thing I would like to say, that when Bernard came knocking on the door was easily opened. It was something we'd already been discussing within the university. Our sports programs, we would have 46 sports programs on the campus, of which we've selected 6 that we will target in terms of developing centre of excellence, and basketball was clearly one of those. It was very attractive to us for a number of reasons. First, as Bernard has already said, we had a very good working relationship with Basketball Ireland. But also, it is one of the sports that we find that our athletes are equally successful on both genders, and we have equal numbers on both genders coming through. And I suppose that reflects the level of basketball in the second level. The West of Ireland has a strong representation, particularly at underage basketball at national level. And that needed to be, shall we say, cultured and progressed a little bit further. For us, the role of the university within high performance sport, I think, is something we're going to see more and more of coming down the road. And I think Bernard is ahead of the posse in this one. And I suspect that you're going to see a lot of other national government bodies follow the same pathway. If you look at the overall investment in both staff and facilities, there's probably no other sector with as big an investment in sport as the third level sector right across the country. And probably what Bernard is setting out here and why we were so happy to work with him is I do believe this is going to be a template right across high performance sport for the whole country. It's going to deliver not just on the domestic sports scene, but the Olympic sports scene and the non-Olympic sports. For the reasons Bernard had laid out, I mean, we're in the West of Ireland here. We have huge facilities. We have 19,000 students. It's a huge element. It's a huge portion of the population here that we have available to us for the key part of their development as athletes, not just as human beings. We take them at 17 and they're up to us to 22, 23, or maybe later. This is the key moment for their development as an athlete. And there we have them. And so therefore we see it's absolutely crucial that we're working hand in hand with the national government bodies strategy, both for participation development and for high performance development. We have an opportunity to produce really quality athletes. And I suppose it mirrors exactly what we're trying to do academically. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're doing as an academic institution is hopefully providing the leaders of the future for society right across the professions. But equally, we would like to see that maybe not while they're here as students, we'd like to see NUID students and scholars and basketball players come to meet their full potential as full-time internationals or professional athletes when they leave us. And just as a small one for us, as a very small university, to watch the like of Robbie Henshaw perform on the weekend, who's an ex-NUID student, with Naomi Carl playing with the Irish hockey team. We're not a hockey centre as such, but she did come through our system. We did support her. We understood what she'd, and in her situation, we supported her to play her hockey in Dublin during the weekends because that was the calibre of hockey she needed to be playing to get to where she is now. So this reflects what we want to do, and therefore having a centre of excellence here. And the last thing, I suppose, from our point of view, selfishly, we hope we will attract really, really good basketball players to come and study in NUI Galway.
It makes perfect sense that they would. The beauty of this as well is that it works not only from your perspective at that window of opportunity in terms of the student body that you have there, but also in terms of your outreach. So not only are you producing players that will go on to play, but also you're reaching out to schools. Is that an important element of the strategy from your point of view, Nigel?
Without a doubt, and I think with the work that we've been doing with Basketball Ireland and Basketball Northern Ireland over a number of years, we've really put into place a robust and sustainable model of our students being trained to go out and to spread the gospel, if you like, of basketball in the local community. And in some, some disadvantaged areas, some really tough areas around the campus, which has opened the doors really to the availability of all sports on campus. It's been really, really helpful in terms of not only just outreaching with the schools, outreaching with local clubs, local community. And I think that's a really important and significant part of the university strategy for sport, and also the university's widening access agenda, which we are quite proud that we play a really large part of, to be honest, Raoul.
The current circumstances that we find ourselves in will pass. We have to be confident that things will be back to a more normal environment, perhaps in time for the start of the next academic year. Is that the time frame that we're looking at producing or building out the template with Basketball Ireland now?
I think what we've got with the agreement of the Centre of Excellence is actually, we can be doing things now and we can be building forward in anticipation of reopening. We've spent a lot of time during lockdown looking at a development of a new strategy for sport, which actually basketball is helping us to lead in terms of some of the digitization of what we're doing. We're having discussions really about our ability to enhance our performance analysis and to start to look at the technology we've set up now in the halls to live stream some of the games, which is fantastic. We're also trying to work with Basketball Ireland and others to look at opportunities to invest in skill acquisition of young players, because I think all these things centres of excellence should have and should be. So we're working actually with somebody you'll know, Kathy Craig, at the moment to look at opportunities of the virtual reality and AI and all the sort of new technologies that in effect the Centre of Excellence can be a living laboratory for the development of the sport. And I think that's why it's so exciting, is that this starts now. It's a wonderful day, as Bernard said, in terms of what this gives us an opportunity for us to galvanise support and the expertise and resources that are in the University of Ulster University, as they are in NUIG, to really move forward and rise the tide for the sport from now on. So yeah, we want this rolling out tomorrow. We want to keep building, and obviously we want to see the athletes back into the university. But yeah, our planning's underway now. We will be pushing that forward with Bernard and his brilliant team.
Well, it's a great example of heads up thinking, I guess, on behalf of the sport and the national governing body. It's going to have obvious long-term benefits. Bernard, before I let you go, I might just ask the FIBA announcement in terms of pushing back a decision on Ireland's hosting of the Small Nations tournament at UL in the summertime. That's obviously a positive to give us more time to actually make sure that things are right. But how do you feel about the prospect of indoor sport returning in the short to medium term?
I have to be honest, Rob, I'm probably less optimistic now than I would have been a month ago. On the basis of the figures that we're seeing in last week, I attended a board meeting on Friday in FIBA, and obviously listening to my colleagues around Europe telling me how things are in Italy and France and Germany, and no good stories around really. I'm probably less optimistic. Now, what I do think is that if there's a chance of championships going ahead, it is more likely to be the small nations than the underage competitions, because the underage competitions obviously bring a lot of issues with them, kids traveling, the parents obviously hugely concerned if something happens while the kids are away and they have to stay there and remain in quarantine. That's a whole new set of issues. So I think the youth championships are really in danger. But FIBA, like ourselves, like every federation, we desperately want these competitions to go ahead. But at the same time, we can only make responsible decisions, and they have to be based on health and whatever. So the two scenarios I really think at the moment are that things improve fairly quickly and we go ahead at the end of June, or a possibility that the small nations might be postponed to September, and that it's starting just before we start our domestic season, that we would host the small nations here in September, which actually would be a great start to a new season if that happened. The third scenario then obviously is just everything is cancelled again and pushed forward to 2022, which we're trying not to think of, but obviously it is a possibility.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for the short-term optimism, but but I don't think we need to cross our fingers in terms of the long term. I think that what's been put in place here today as a starting point looks to be incredibly effective. I am pretty sure it's going to lead to a greater reach of basketball out into our communities and a greater level of performance for Ireland on the world stage. So congratulations to you, to Mike Heskin from NUIG, to Nigel Dobson up in Ulster University, and to you as the architect of this latest great scheme, Bernard O'Byrne, CEO of Basketball Ireland.